Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dynaway Dialogues. I'm your host, Jesse Zdonek. I'll be guiding us today through our discussions. Today, I'm super excited to have our guest, Jakob Ingemann, founder and CEO of Sprint 365. And they are a Danish consultancy specializing in efficient Microsoft Dynamics 365 F&O implementations. Welcome, Jakob.
Thanks.
Just to start, if you would introduce yourself and a little bit about your journey.
Originally, I actually have a finance background from Maersk, the shipping company Maersk. They used to own a lot of manufacturing groups below them, industrial groups, and that's actually where I started my career. And for mysterious reasons now, at least, I ended up from beginning being part of business systems implementations. And that really caught my interest. Found it very intriguing of how you support implementations in businesses. That career evolved in that particular group over 15 years, ending up with me being the CIO of 28 factories across the world, and supporting, of course, ERP across those. And when I left that company, I became a self-employed consultant. That actually has been specializing in and founded another company, not the company we're talking about today, but a management consultancy company called Nissan. In that company, I've actually, for the past 15 years, been helping, let's call it, larger and large customers through business systems implementations and business transformations. And sitting on their side of the table, towards maybe an implementation partner and doing implementations. It's basically the experience from those 30 years that has actually driven me to found Sprint 365. The first learning, of course, for me is that for all ERP implementations, it's sort of a given that it always takes a longer time and it costs more money and you get less than what you set out to get. And that's a very, very painful experience. The second thing I think is if you actually look at what is being offered to the SME market, at least in Denmark, we have one particular cloud-born small finance solution that has actually now caught 160,000 customers, small customers, I admit. But basically, when they start up their business system implementation, they log onto a web page, they key in their customer registration number, they almost swipe their credit card, and then they click on a few add-on modules, and then they're up and running within hours. And then they can actually start transacting their business, right? And I found it very mysterious with a company like Microsoft that is spending billions of dollars in investing into Dynamics 365, that for enterprise customers, it is so painful to get onto ERP and start conducting business, right? And then the last thing is actually with Dynamics 365, it actually became, I've been working with this since end 2015. I did what is called a TAP project together with Microsoft and a Maersk company called Maersk Container Industry, the first manufacturing implementation on F&O, including at that time the asset management module from Dynaway and an engineering module from TwinGrease. But at that time, it actually became apparent to me that they had actually created the framework for being able to work with configurations, loading configurations and extracting configurations and working with them in other environments. And you can say, so the learnings from the industry, as well as the capabilities within Dynamics 365 was so intriguing for me and saying, well, this should be done in a different way. And if we rethink how the ERP industry works and compare that to how other industries work, everybody should be pulling in this direction. We should be going towards making things easier for enterprises. And that's what Sprint is about and what it has been about from starting the company. Make sense?
Absolutely. And I can validate that. I talk to customer after customer often when they're in the middle of their ERP implementation. I'm talking to the operations people and the maintenance people, and they want to get started and they want to get things done, but IT and finance and all the other divisions are so bogged down in configuration of those modules that a lot of times operations and maintenance gets pushed to phase 2, phase 3, sometimes phase never. And because they don't because they don't get what they expect from their partners because it's so complex. So I can totally understand how your company philosophy came to be. That's a fantastic operating model.
I think over time, at least what I've heard, it has been attempted before, but I think the industry is obstructing this from themselves. So the partners want to keep the complexity that they are currently offering, and the customers believe that there is only one way of doing this, right? So I think it's the parties in this that are setting themselves up for failure.
Sure. Yeah, and it is a 80-20 rule. Probably 80% of configurations are kind of generic across companies, but there is 20% that customers want to feel like they're unique, and they are. But a lot of it is repeatable as well. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from. Let me ask you this. Sprint 365 offers a fast template-driven Dynamics 365 F&O implementation, hopefully achieving operational status from as low as 60 days, depending on your industry and scope. For asset management customers, realistic operation status is from 90 days, depending on your data readiness. Can you tell us about that and how you came about that process?
Yes, actually, I can share with you that the first Sprint implementation we actually did before it was called Sprint. We did that back in 2018. It was a customer that was splitting up. One customer that was splitting up in two, and they had to be out of their old AX solution within 30 days, actually 27 days. So we actually managed to go live with finance, supply chain, integration to a small service tool, and live in 27 days, which is, it's borderlining possibilities simply because you cannot almost get hardware in place, get things configured, get data imported, and do a UAT that is the prerequisite for being able to turn on production system. But we managed to massage Microsoft to get to that because the customer needed it, right?
Right.
But we have since learned that bragging about being able to do this in 30 days is not a particularly good idea, because it always comes with some kind of bill afterwards. The pain you don't address up front, you sort of get back, and that's why we actually say now that for companies it's from 60 days upwards, because that's a manageable time frame. When it comes to asset management, I'm going to talk a little bit about the implementation process or steps, not showing you anything, so it's a little bit abstract to talk about, but I'll try anyway. It's all about, are you ready or not to be able to sprint? My philosophy is you should try to be as ready as possible with all the elements that are needed during the implementation, so that you can do a very, very efficient implementation across the board. Okay. So when I talk about 90 days, I'm not necessarily talking about the time before that you need to get your data in order. So to be able to do an asset management implementation in 90 days, you need to make sure that you have prepared all the things that you need to prepare. You have taken into account if there's some change management that needs to happen in your company. You have prepared your data. We have done process validation and made sure that the generic processes that we are implementing, they actually also fit your business, and so on and so forth. So that's the preparation time. When I talk about 90 days, it's the efficient part of the project when we actually say, now we push the on button of the project until we go live. And that's also the time that the company is under change, so to say. Okay, does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's a wonderful approach. With all your years of experience in the industry, what kind of lessons have you learned about driving successful IT projects and digital transformation? Are there any keys you can give us?
Well, I think it actually starts out with me using, and I believe it's a quote from a very clever person that we all know the name of. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right? Right. That's a quote from Einstein, I believe.
So.
And basically, this is what I've been a witness to in the industry for so many years. So a lesson I have learned at least is, if we want different results, we also need to take a different approach, and that's what I'm trying to do with this particular thing, right? The next thing I think, which I think is very much tied to the traditional way of doing ERP implementation. If we spend too much time on what we do today, that really represents maybe the last 20 or 30 years of commercial misery, then we are not addressing necessarily the future. And perhaps we might even be creating new obstacles for ourselves in creating competitiveness in a new digital market. One more thing also that we have seen over not that many years ago, things are changing more rapid than ever for customers, right? And changes in their business or the way they conduct business with their customers, it needs to happen very, very fast. And most organizations, they do not have capacity to undergo change for longer periods. So for me, the thing about being able to react fast, it also puts a need for us to actually shrink the period that we undergo change, thus having very, very short implementation time frame, right? We can no longer, you can say in the old days, we were used to ERP implementation. It takes 9, 12, 15, 18 months, 24 months for the implementation. Well, the world has now changed in the 24 months we have actually spent on doing this, right? And people get exhausted along the way, and we run out of funding and so on. We cannot do that. So another thing for me about this is it's actually better to get things 90% right and be ready to change a little bit along the way. Instead of aiming for 100% right for a longer period and never getting it super right because things are changing under us, right? And then the last things that basically talks to our way of doing things. I don't believe customers are very special when it comes to generic ERP processes. I completely echo that when it comes to competitiveness or a particular business model, that needs to be addressed in some customer-facing apps, and they need to be able to do rapid changes and so on. But that's not the entire part of the ERP solution. Okay, so that's basically my learnings.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I didn't put 2 and 2 together until you were talking there, but thus the name of your company, Sprint 365, because we are doing sprints. And for instance, in our organization a few years ago, we went to the sprint development model, and it's been fabulous for us. And you're right, you can get change management fatigue over 18 or 24 months, and nothing gets done, or you don't achieve your goals in the end because you just had to stop and start working. So I can totally understand.
I heard from another partner, a very large partner that I actually very value and have been working with for many years. We had a talk about when can the customer actually see what they're getting. Well, I think the built-in problems of the traditional ERP implementation is that customers actually been waiting 12, 15 or 18 months to actually see what it was they thought they ordered. And then basically not hitting it right. So my friend there, he told me, we have understood that now. So we are actually able to show the customer within 8 weeks their processes with their own data. But Sprint 365, I can just share with you, we are able to show this within a week. Right? Basically, it takes us a couple of hours to load our configuration. And if the customer is ready with some data, we can load some sample data, and then we can start showing processes all within days, basically, right? And for me, one of the successes of being able to talk to customers is also to be able to show them what is it you're actually getting. Seeing is believing. Okay.
Yeah, that's revolutionary. That's fantastic. Yeah, and a lot of times customers don't know what they want until they see it in action. So.
Yes,
you're exactly right. Do you think companies still underinvest in IT, and are they prepared for digitalization? What do you see in the marketplace?
Over a broad scale, I think customers, they still underinvest. Many of them are not. I'm not only talking from a spend perspective. I'm also talking about some of the other work that I actually do. I actually help customers benchmark their spend towards industry, and I help customers actually find out what are they actually spending on IT. Usually that involves digging in the balance sheet and see what kind of projects that they've done some years ago already written off that are actually now hidden debt or technical debt on the balance sheet. And I tend to bring that forward to actually show them what are they actually spending by not spending, or what are they hiding from themselves in that matter. And then I normally benchmark to the industry to find out, are you on par? Are you over or under with the industry? In most cases, I actually see that customers are under what the industry average is in their own industry. simply because IT is one of those areas where you actually tend to save money. But it's not necessarily that is the biggest problem. It's actually when you then double click on the number that they're actually spending to find out what they're spending it on. And for that, I normally use a model from Gartner Group, which is called RGT, Run, Grow, Transform, to try to put a sort of a label on their spendings to say, what are you spending on running your IT? How much are you spending on growing your business and growing your IT? How much are you actually spending on your digital transformation? And actually, there are also some thumb rules from the industry here saying, well, you should spend 70% on running. You should be spending approximately 10% on, or 20% on growing and helping grow the business. And you should be spending 10% per year on actually transforming your business or transforming your processes, digitizing your company and so on. And in most cases, unfortunately, running IT is in the 90s and very little is left for actually developing IT. So I think we have a built-in problem of how much people or companies are spending and how they are spending this money. And that we are normally helping them to try to understand.
That's good insight. Well, let's change gears a little bit. We're gearing up for the asset management conference, Dynaway Connect, coming up in April, and we're glad that you're going to be a guest speaker there. So we're excited. But can you tell us a little bit about what you're eager to share and what you're looking forward to at the conference?
Yeah, when we hit the conference, I believe we probably have our configuration in place. Maybe not all of our other enablers, but I'm going to share with the audience anyway. What does this actually mean? We believe actually that we can achieve somewhere between a 60 to 70% pre-configuration degree of the asset management module. That's actually higher than what Dynaway themselves thinks. They think lower. But they are also bound maybe by their knowledge and not by attacking guests. And I look forward to actually get to that point to actually tell everybody, well, it was 55 or it was 65 or it was 62. And what are the remaining 30 or 40% that actually needs to be managed? That's normally data. And that's the cumbersome part of this, right? And then, of course, I look forward to being able to bounce this off the audience and get some direct feedback on what do they think about this. So we are doing this together with a very, very large customer that has got large maintenance needs together with Dynaway. But of course, it's always interesting to see what works with one customer. How does that actually echo with other customers? So this is what I'm looking very much forward to sharing with the audience. And then I'm looking very much forward to my architect, who is a maintenance engineer, to actually tell them what does this speedy or rapid implementation, what does this actually mean for them? What is it we are delivering and what is it the customer need to bring to the party, and how can we party together and make this a very, very happy journey, right? So that I look very much forward to.
Fantastic.
And then, of course, from all the other speakers here and participants, I look forward to actually hearing and understanding what's the challenges in their respective industries.
Yeah, that's a good transition. My next question was going to be, kind of your take on knowledge sharing conferences in general. Do you find that they're good for your particular industry? What's your take on how valuable they are?
It's super relevant. I mean, I can sit down in the basement of our company and I can cook up a lot of fantastic ideas of what it is that I want to address for the customers. That's sort of an inside out method. And sometimes you hit it right, but sometimes you also get it very wrong. When you attend conferences like this, then it's outside in. So all the things I hear, all the things I learn, I can actually put into my product and say, well, I should tweak the product a little bit. I should add some components to the product. I should add some, we call it verticals. That's the asset management solution that we're driving. And then we have a lot of enablers. I talked about that before. We call those horizontals, our business process modeler, our video-based e-learning tools and stuff like that. I want to see what does this matter for the other industries and hear from them so that I can actually take that back and do an even better product. Right. And so I really look forward to this.
Well, we're excited to have you, Jakob. As we wrap up, our episode of Dynaway Dialogues, I just want to thank everybody for joining. Please follow us, like us, so whatever platform you're watching this on. Please be sure to share with others. and we hope that you can make the conference in the future, if not this year. Annually, it will be a bigger and bigger event each and every year. So we're glad you joined us today. Thanks for listening, and hope to see you soon.